WNBA establishment just got exposed on a global scale, and they're absolutely panicking. What just happened at the FIBA World Cup qualifiers didn't just embarrass the league. It completely shattered their corrupt system and proved they've been sabotaging their own billion-dollar superstar for an entire season. The international referees accidentally revealed the biggest conspiracy in women's sports history, and now the veteran players are desperately trying to steal credit for a financial boom they had nothing to do with. This is about to get absolutely wild.
Because the FIBA referees put them on notice, pretty much let them be known. We ain't doing what y'all would be doing in the WNBA. So, quite frankly, the FIBA referees set the tone for how a game...
Here's what nobody's talking about. For Caitlin Clark's entire rookie season, we watched her get brutally fouled, blindsided, and physically assaulted on a nightly basis, while WNBA referees swallowed their whistles. Every single game, veteran players were throwing elbows, delivering cheap shots, and committing flagrant fouls that would get ejections in any other professional league. The officials just stood there and let it happen. They claimed it was letting them play, and that Clark needed to adjust to the physicality. But that was complete garbage. What we witnessed was a coordinated campaign of intimidation designed to break her psychologically and suppress her dominance. The veteran establishment was terrified of being exposed, so they used the referees as their weapon to physically neutralize the greatest offensive engine the sport has ever seen. And for months, it worked. Clark was getting battered, her teammates were getting frustrated, and the media was pushing this toxic narrative that she just wasn't ready for professional basketball.
Don't want to get too specific into details, but knowing that this new CBA is going to be historic. It's going to create generational success between players of all levels, and really exciting.
But then something absolutely catastrophic happened for the WNBA's corrupt system. Caitlin Clark stepped onto the international stage for the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, and everything changed overnight. These weren't WNBA referees with their political agendas and veteran favoritism. These were international officials who only cared about enforcing the actual rules of basketball. The moment Clark touched that court, the physical assault stopped. Players who tried to rough her up got whistled immediately. The referees protected her like they're supposed to protect every player, and the results were absolutely devastating for the WNBA establishment. Clark didn't just dominate, she completely obliterated the competition and walked away with the MVP award. She looked like the most unstoppable player on the planet, which is exactly what she is when the game is officiated fairly.
And really be in a space where we're in collaboration with the WNBA. You know, we are now a part of a rev share system, and we are going to see the fruits of our labor in a way that we've never done before.
The international tournament just proved beyond any doubt that the WNBA has been artificially suppressing their own cash cow. When you remove the corrupt officiating and political manipulation, Caitlin Clark becomes an unstoppable force that no defense can contain. The FIBA referees accidentally exposed the biggest scandal in professional sports, a domestic league actively sabotaging their most valuable asset to protect the fragile egos of veteran players who can't compete with her talent. Every basketball fan watching those international games saw the same thing. They saw what Clark looks like when she's not getting mugged every possession. They saw her natural dominance when the referees actually do their jobs. And now everyone knows that the WNBA has been running a protection racket for mediocre veterans who were terrified of being exposed by a 22-year-old rookie.
Negotiations with the WNBA. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, what we could take from Unrivaled was just the way that players were treated and how we had a standard to make sure that everybody had access to everything that they needed to build their basketball, build their game in a way.
While this massive officiating scandal was unfolding, something even more infuriating happened behind the scenes. The WNBA Players Union and ownership reached a historic collective bargaining agreement worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and the veteran players immediately ran to every microphone they could find to take credit for it. Breanna Stewart stood in front of cameras and had the absolute audacity to claim this was the result of historic generational success from the veteran leadership. Are you kidding me? These are the same players who spent 30 years playing in empty arenas, generating pathetic television ratings, and requiring constant financial bailouts from the NBA just to keep their league alive. For 3 decades, Their labor produced a product that lost millions of dollars annually and barely registered on the American sports landscape. Then Caitlin Clark arrived and single-handedly revolutionized everything. She shattered collegiate viewership records, sold out every WNBA arena she played in, and forced television networks to completely restructure their media deals. Corporate sponsors who ignored the WNBA for decades suddenly started throwing money at the league. Merchandise sales exploded. International interest skyrocketed. The entire financial boom that enabled this historic CBA was generated by one player, the same player these veterans spent all season trying to physically intimidate and mentally break. But now they want to stand in front of cameras and claim they're the brilliant financial architects of this deal. It's absolutely shameless. They're demanding executive bonuses without producing any executive output, and they're doing it with straight faces while the entire sports world knows exactly who created this value. But the delusion reaches peak insanity when Stewart tries to explain what actually caused this financial windfall. When asked directly about the catalyst for the new CBA, she claimed it was the unrivaled league, her personal off-season project that completely flopped in the ratings. She actually looked reporters in the eyes and said that a startup league that barely averaged 120,000 viewers on national television was the economic force that pressured the WNBA into this historic deal. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark was pulling 334,000 viewers for a meaningless Thursday afternoon exhibition game on a secondary channel. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Stewart is trying to rewrite history in real time, completely ignoring the mathematical reality that Clark's gravitational pull is the only reason any of them have leverage to negotiate anything. Here's what's really happening behind these manufactured press conferences. The WNBA establishment is absolutely terrified because they know their time is up. The international tournament exposed their corrupt system to a global audience. The new CBA was funded entirely by revenue that Clark generated, not veteran accomplishments. And now they're desperately trying to maintain control of a narrative that's already collapsed. The billionaire owners saw those FIBA games too. They watched Clark dominate when the playing field was level. They saw the pathetic viewership numbers for veteran-led alternative leagues. They realized they hold all the leverage because the veterans have zero standalone market value without Clark's star power driving interest in the league. When the players' union threatened a lockout, the owners called their bluff immediately. The veterans folded instantly because they knew walking away would mean torching the only winning lottery ticket they'd ever possessed. The free market doesn't care about veteran feelings or manufactured narratives. The millions of fans who buy tickets, purchase merchandise, and generate the television ratings that fund these massive salaries all saw the same thing during that international tournament. They saw what happens when Caitlin Clark isn't getting mugged every possession. They saw her natural dominance when referees actually enforce the rules. They saw the greatest playmaker of this generation finally get the protection she deserves, and the results were absolutely devastating for anyone who doubted her abilities. Now these fans are watching veteran players try to steal credit for a financial boom they didn't create, while simultaneously marginalizing the player who made it all possible. The establishment is playing an incredibly dangerous game with their own fanbase, actively destroying goodwill with the exact demographic that pays their salaries. The 2025 WNBA season is going to be unlike anything we've ever witnessed. Caitlin Clark will step onto that court knowing the entire world saw her dominate when the game was officiated fairly. She'll be operating under a CBA that she single-handedly funded while veteran players claim credit for her work. The training wheels are coming off, and the political protection for mediocre veterans is about to disappear completely. Clark spent an entire rookie season getting physically assaulted while referees looked the other way, but now the international stage has exposed that corrupt system to a global audience. The establishment tried everything to break her manipulated officiating, manufactured narratives, artificial suppression of her touches. But you cannot suppress a fundamental force of nature. The market has already spoken through viewership numbers, sponsorship deals, and international recognition. They don't care about veteran delusions or participation trophies. They want elite production, and Clark is the only player mathematically capable of delivering it at a macroeconomic scale. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments below. Now that the FIBA referees have globally exposed the WNBA's corrupt officiating mandate against Caitlin Clark, exactly how devastating will her revenge tour be this upcoming season? The veteran establishment spent a year trying to suppress the greatest talent the sport has ever seen. but they just handed her the ultimate motivation while the entire world watched their system get exposed. If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell because this revolution is just getting started. The establishment's manufactured reality is crumbling, and what comes next is going to be absolutely ruthless. I'll see you in the next one.